came into my life so unexpected. I guess it's destiny. You know you're just my type, so I'll give you all my loving. Oh, hey. Even if I have me a telescope, I'd never see this love coming. We don't need confirmation on our love from a horoscope. Say the word and I'll come running. I'm on my way, with no delay. I'm falling like a girl all the way. Let them talk and say what they want to say. We know that love is here to stay. Can't nobody love you like I do, like I do, like I do. Can't nobody love me like you do, like you do, like you do. Love your energy, oh hey. Said I love your energy, oh hey. Your energy, love your energy, oh hey. Said I love your energy, oh hey. Your energy, baby. I take this time just to say how I feel. Gotta keep it so true and keep it so real. Sometimes when I think about it, so surreal. Many of times I revealed that you're so special. I saw your potential the first time that we met. I could never forget. Yeah, all eyes on you when you walked in. I made my move, we started talking. Fast forward, here we are. You stole my heart. You're number one on my list, girl. You top the charts. Say the word, I'm right there. Cause no one else compares, and nothing else compares to the love that we share. Always by my side, Bonnie and Clyde. It's a different type of bond. You're my ride or die. We're living proof, that's straight facts. I reassure you so you know that. Can't nobody love you like I do, like I do, like I do. Can't nobody love me like you do, like you do, like you do. Love your energy, oh
Good evening. Or whatever it is, wherever you are. This morning we sorted some of this stuff out. Well, we changed it. I hope it's better. It matches up with how it's used a little bit better. It still doesn't quite match. Like we're still kind of dummying this thing in during the import process. And then we're kind of sort of modifying it as we update things. I guess instead of a multi-pass process, you could do a full sort of recursive check. So you hit something with no requirements. You'd still have to know what god that was tagged as. You could conceivably do that. If we and then the god. And then passed it all the way down to here. That would get rid of the unknown. That would get rid of one of the rewrite passes. Don't know if it's worth it. So there's two other directions I've been thinking about going. One is, let's see, so a trait to have attach the layout data to the god, because we're going to take all the traits and all the layout, and we're going to pretty much do all of those together. And the other aspect is, let's see, where are you? There's boon chart, we have chart metrics. We have connectors and we have boons, which are doing actually very, very similar things. Do I still have boons? Yeah, basic boons, a list of boons. Calculate duos is a list of connectors, but boons? Oh no. Has this been oh, maybe we didn't use, okay, we just didn't use that. Calculate adjacent, calculate skip one. These all sound like duo stuff. Where do I use you? Okay, yeah. Jason, skip one opposite, yeah. Layout duo boon. Oh, layout duo boons. Do I use you? I do use you. And you return a list boon. You return a boon. Ah. So we do everything up to that point, and then we get this additional information. Alright, and I see layout basic boons is also returning boons, but I think we're... Oh, yeah, so we're using a structure that we defined to do arcs to locate these things. And let's just look at what we're doing with edges. I think it might be being forced to the same structure. Layout duo boon. Well, I just had a shower, so my hair is still wet. That might be it. Probably not quite as poofy. Basic connectors are going to come from, from layout. And yeah, we're just totally dummying in this data. And indeed, icon point is irrelevant to most of the shapes we're doing here. So we've been abusing that structure to do these things, because that's how we drew these. We've been kind of abusing that structure for all of these lines, because they don't have any icons on them. So kind of a better data model for our graphical elements here. Now, we might have something similar to shape, but the shape's going to have to carry data. Is this how? Well, shape already is doing a little bit of data, because if it's some kind of arc, we have the center of the arc and then 2 endpoints. Now, one of the things that's been a constant question is, do we actually should we actually encode arcs as point to point? So right now I'm importing them as circle and a couple angles. Just my rendering system right now is set up for making. Is it? I think it's Bezier curves, maybe, from 2 points in a center. And there's constantly the tension of, should we actually go back to encoding it as something else, maybe doing it at the last minute. And it's kind of where we ended up for connection type. Well, no, that's its line point. Or arc. Okay, you actually did encode this as center radius angle. Now it's a bit of math to get to the point-to-point form. That's doing initial calculation. That's a whole different thing. This is the bit of math. Okay, then cubic curve was the extension that I added to the collage library. Although it kind of comes down to these points. So maybe if I have a graphic element, I would sort of like want to cache the curve, because that way I wouldn't have to do any of this math on every pass. Because this is point to point and center. So if that's going to have... So here we have lines, we have arcs. Now I'm actually calculating the arcs as... Those arcs as point to point. I mean, I could surely go the other way. It just might seem a little bit silly to... calculate the points, turn them into angles, and then turn them back into points. Oh, I guess I could store the angles, go ahead and make the curve parameters and store those if that's in fact how it's going. And I could generate the duo boons as an icon and a line, which is similar how these are going to be, the icons and lines are going to be separate things. I think I kind of wanted them I kind of wanted them together because these are eventually going to require some kind of special rendering, maybe like dashing. So like this would be like red and purple. And then if one side had met its prerequisites, you have purple only, or red and purple when both sides are active, or met their requirements, and then this becomes available. So there is some association between those things. Now I might eventually have it where lines know their prerequisites and calculate them the same way as icons. And that would just be a case of giving both of these the same set of prerequisites. So in the world of the graph, well, these things associate directly with traits, but they're a graphical element. So rather than a point, maybe you'd have either a trait or an icon. Would I put in full trait information in there? Icon, ID, name. We need the requirements to draw it highlighted. And if I was keeping requirements and things, then I go rewrite this with we just pass it the requirements instead of the trait ID that would give you those requirements. Let's see, so connector. Do we only use that calculate duo as an intermediate thing? Actually, yeah, that's just, we're not keeping around this information yet. Which means we could conceivably back off to that if it's not, it doesn't have the embedded icon. Although I think right now I'm using this structure to draw those icons, so we'd have to do a separate step. Well, and we would have to assign, the location to the boon icons. So we've got a point. Well, this is the connector shape. We've got an AB. An AB is going to be, well, even a connector has an icon point, which would be not so good if we were doing other things. Not so useful. I think I might want a system more like what layout has, where it's like line, arc with parameters. I guess we'd have to do the icons for that. So what am I... am I... No, it is... Let's do boons. Layout basic boons. Yet. Just all the points the same. We just kind of ignore some fields on there. See the end A, so if it's a line, that would be A and B. Arc would have its own parameters. If it was an, see, so these are our, so yes, these would all turn into a point. Would, the only point would basically be the trait icon. So maybe I should change that, and then that has name icon ID. Actually, what are you left with then? It's just the shape. Now I might be able to transform these item by item, but we want to head towards... So we use arc and split arc to simplify. We are only set up to draw 2 sub-arcs if things need to be divided. Although, I guess since I did this with the splines, I could probably just run those all together, although I'm not sure how the splines work if you just continue doing points. Because that's like a point and 2 control points. It's like if you continue doing it, do you add 3? If we had to do longer arcs, I guess you could re-engineer. Let's see. Well, right now I'm actually directly doing that cubic curve, aren't I? So we've kind of got that little problem. So line is the easy case. I guess we probably already have something called trait. We already have something called boon. Oh, this thing is boon, so yeah, so that might become available later. Maybe it's an icon for now. Now there's actually a number of fields here. So this parameterized format starts to get a little awkward. Oh, and we've already got line here, so you've also got a naming problem if we try to do this in parallel. And what were you? Oh, I actually did do a structure for you. And we have exposed all, so technically we can use that, although I'm not sure. What were we really using from here? Layout, placement, you have your connection, you have your archetype. What are we really using from you? Okay, so layout itself. Oh no, layout. We also have collage.layout. Layout basic connectors. Okay, so a couple of things have to pass that around. Okay. Get placement. We're not going to need to do that very often. And that was it. Now, I guess another possibility is maybe we do start bending this towards being a general purpose tool. Or do we actually treat icon placements as a completely separate thing from connector placements? What's a layout? Okay, a layout has trait ID point. So it does have the idea that these are separate from these. So that might be another good thing to think about. And what we have is this little sort of accidental thing that the process of laying these things out calculates both, in effect. Which is why they ended up together. Which maybe that gives us room to kind of keep this around where we remove that stuff. And then that's just your boon placements. Yeah, so basics are boons right now. We might want to get off of that. Well, no. The boons would still be there, but that was also containing all of our lines. So we could move lines off, remove those fields. So you're laying this out. We go, well, this calculates the connector. And the connector, this process gives you an icon point. I mean, that's where we have to return both. Along with some, well, this is only going to return arcs, but I guess you could just return the arc parameters. So layout duoboon is a map through layout duoboons, which is top level. How much do we actually reuse here? Or how much is actually in common? Okay, well, we should never get there because it's a duoboon. But we wanted to get the god information out, so we have to unpack it from there. We have actually pulled duoboons out of being in the same collection. Now, it's been kind of nice to have them be the same structure because that means you can use the same functions for everything. But I guess you could have a duo trait that was like, okay, and here is the two gods that we use. Now, if I did assign this in the decoder, we wouldn't need that for there. The one place we might need it is here. But we've also got a god here. That's the default assignment. If there's no requirements, we send it to that god. If there was requirements, that would bias this process. But we know the duoboons are only associated with one of the two gods that are actually relevant. So that might be a way to get rid of unknown boon. So that seemed like some extra work, but getting rid of that kinda useless type would be a win. So what does that do for you? Right, so it's a record, it has to get wrapped in a type. It's the god data. Oh, right, we need to parse out this. Which, at that point, maybe we actually just want a separate function here. Of course, we're going to have another level because we're going to take you so we already have that. So this is something. Oh, but you have to be decoder, so we're back to succeed. Well, no, wait a minute. Well, this is a very little interpretation, but it's just currying. Well, okay. It is just fortune that that is the first field. That means we have to pass it through here. And then you can do that. Oh, forgot a parenthesis. Ah, yep. That changed. Copy pasta got us. Doesn't appear to be any damage. So I think this does two things. It gets rid of that step. Got, yep, even cold fusion's still in place. So we can once again delete this. And I think we can get rid of unknown boon. We do have to have a valid type here, though. Ooh. Does that change propagation? Well, no, this is like the final step, right? Hmm. Because you don't have, because the one had a parameter. You don't have a parameter. Any other surprises? So that was the other little trick. So it'd be all of these things. Oh. And what do you do if that doesn't match? What do you do if that doesn't match? Of course, this is basically, this is kind of like a null in my entire process here. But we do have a couple little corner cases. Okay, you just have to deal with it. I think these are all kind of internal to this determinant process, so maybe I could run some maybes through there. Boon type from group goes into a maybe. This is returning a boon type. This does have a god. So once again, we can do the defaulting thing. But interestingly enough, well, okay, so this could answer something else. But instead of doing a maybe, I could just pass in what our other option here is. Let's see, so what was our other corner case? Find boon type. You are... You're kind of a dictionary lookup, except we didn't make a dictionary. You don't have a default god. Well, actually, this does have a... I mean, this case would just disappear, right? If we didn't have an unknown. But if I can't wash out the maybe there, I'd have to consider... I guess this would become a nothing and a just. So that would still kind of have that unknown case. Okay, and that was supposed to create conflicts, but we've run through the process and haven't had any problems. So we just leave this as a duo? I mean, this is just technically the same thing as here. So they really just turn into boon type. You disappear. This is the one where we wanted to pass a default. To handle these cases. Right. Because it's accumulating. We no longer have an unknown case. So find boon type goes into you. Right, this is where that was trying to wash out the maybe. Oh, and get the boon type out of the result. What I could do is I could maybe map it. Then that's an anything. Oh, actually, there was a shoot. There was an answer here for unknown, which becomes nothing. Which is whatever that was. And we're doing group. And then all of these have to consider the maybe. Looks like we have a missing arrow. Oop, 171. Oh, indeed. It's module, maybe. Maybe boon type. Oh, yep. Okay, that's still there. Everything else is looking pretty good. Alright, so that got rid of the unknown type. Nope, that's the compiler. Oh, and we were doing some other stuff in Boon chart, weren't we? Alright, we constrained layout, and that was just playing around. Remove a dead function. Alright, so that would make it a little bit more straightforward to have actually different types. Well, I might need to have an intermediate type for the parsing level. Although those would just, we just treat them as singles. And then since it's one pass now, it might be possible to go through and like identify the duos and then do something with them. So right now we're going through and modifying. Okay, so that's mapping over them. All right, trait boon type equals. So we don't expect that to change anything except the duos. I guess the real question then, could that become awkward to deal with? Because like the process of going through and drawing an icon is going to be the same regardless if it's a basic or duo. We're going to kind of handle them in separate passes. I don't know if it's going to be that different though. I made you, did I use you? I used you in find boon. It's not exposed. Separate them. And something like that used extract? Are you extract use that? Yes. Okay. Yeah, so right now, that's where trait ID traits. Well, traits the entire collection. Boon. Ah. We were mapping over a, well, instead of boons is the derived thing. So that means it's actually happening up here somewhere. like layout duo boons. Well, this is a list trait. Traits.duo boons. Layout basic boons. Goal of the gods. Basic boons of one particular god. So you're already... Trait comes from indexed map of that, which not necessarily common code. Huh. I almost wonder if they could be separate types. So God data has traits. Duo is a list of trait. Certainly our processing pipeline right now is kind of treating them as the same thing. So it would change the pipeline a little bit. So we'd have to have something that made one. And I don't think this will work. Yeah, trait does not have an is-duo field. Do we build one of these up somewhere? Not really. Yep. Man, no, actually, there's not going to be a conflict, strangely enough. And this is so at the moment we're actually recording the two gods. There's probably gonna be things that use the like list trait somewhere. But how much is gonna break? So type mismatch. There was our last successful compile. So far, nothing outside of here is broken, but it might not have gotten there. Or maybe it just stopped at the first error, because that was the old error. And since we defined as duo, oh, this is the requirements. So that we couldn't do. Well, at the moment we can, because it's only here that that's an issue. Ah, and this is where all the external stuff is going to break. Now Boon chart has issues. Are they deep issues? Because you're less straight. Oh, right. Did we? Yeah, we explicitly did these. Layout, duo, boon. Boons. Okay, well, this is specifically a duo boon. So it could be done. I guess it's these things that are particularly bugging me about it. Even though they're so nearly the same. By the time we get here, it really should be a duo trait. But we also have to consider that possibility. So you care about the two pieces. So is skip one, calculate duo. I guess there's right now there's only two places that care. So certainly they have some common fields. We might be able to do something that says, okay, take a basic boon and a duo boon and map them down to their common fields, and we use that part. Well, Actually, one of the complications could be if I ever do a full dynamic layout version, then duo boons might just be next to another node in the network, not an extra special thing. And then you're not going to want to have it be a totally different type. All right, yeah, we did that. All right, so what else were we looking at? Oh, this kind of goes back to just looking at the general data structures of things and what types of things we have to lay out. So if we think of these as layout objects, maybe you could say a layout for a duo boon is different from a basic boon. I mean, to a certain extent, it's just a point. I feel like I got down a whole line of thinking there, and then we lost it in getting at the unknown. We were looking at what does it look like okay, so you've got a whole bunch of fields, which we hope to simplify down to something like that. And indeed, maybe it would kind of become the eventual version of that. Or we've got a line, which is a point point. Let's see, and arcs were center, radius, angle, angle. Actually, we had the arc type for that, which I think that wasn't, we didn't import that. It's probably not going to be different, but I don't have to have a good intermediate place to put that right now. Unless I did something in geometry that was like, here's how we're going to consider an arc. Well, here a circle, we're kind of doing circles as point radius. I don't know if I want to get into rigid types. Well, I sort of had a type there, didn't I? It was just a pair, though. For the time being, these are the same. Oh, yep, other arc. The dangers of overlaid existence. We'd have to deal with the splitting somewhere. Yeah, so my import is only dealing with single level splits. Because this is only able to return a single shape right now, so that... We can return multiple, just make it a cat map. This will just be some kind of loop. And then that is... These are always return 2 segments. Right, because this had the... Is this the center of this? Yeah, because arc has that, and then icon point is the middle. So you would actually almost kind of be a list yourself. Because we could sort of pre-split that one. I don't know if I want to be kind of carrying around the baggage of the splits. If we're representing the arc like this, where we're going to cache it. So you were like a list of point, basically. Actually, this isn't in here because I had to add a custom type for it. Oh, did I have you here, or I leave you in offsite? Even though I forked it. No. Okay, it's not collage, it's Elm collage. Which package were you in, though? Yeah, list point. Now, there'll be a point where we... Well, I guess if we have all of these things, we could calculate the points at that time. And it'd be kind of a little implementation leakage, but... Oh, and would that be where we potentially do continuing the curve? Well, that could be an optimization. Although if we could do that, we would actually have to return multiples in places where it had to split. So you're calling arc blah, 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 blah. Could we? Here's an intermediate way to test this. See the does all the math. Oh, I'm going to need a function that just returns the points. And then I almost don't need this little arc function. Oh, you don't need the parts. So you're actually at a parsing error right now. Because we lost our equal sign. Error? Oh, yeah, okay. Actually, you should really just be... We should really only expect a single here. Okay, that's nothing had to deal with them. Now, we generated... Well, you were even an arc as a test, but... Split arc in particular... Well, no, if we were doing a split arc... That's going to be over wide. Else arc. Oh, we actually have to come back and get these points then. It's like we have it, we just don't necessarily have it. And center was something that came from here. And unless we add auto splitting and stuff into here somewhere, then... Oh, and then that would be the point to split it at if it needed to split. It's all just hacked together. Well, is this the only place we do a straight up arc? Capital arc. Yes. So curve wants center to scale. And this is a simple curve, so it's end A to end B. Oh, no. No, curve is the points. So we have to give you arc. This is arc points. Okay, so these smaller arcs. Hey, those should have actually. Those are split. That split. That split. Do I actually have any basic arcs here? Oh, yeah. Did I forget to split that one? Or maybe the angles came calculated out weird. 1575. Okay, I could maybe see that one, and then if it overdrew, I thought I fixed that, but maybe not. I don't have a good way to tell. Tell the pieces apart. But yeah, so these are multiple pieces, each of which is less than 90 degrees. That method of drawing is basically working. We've definitely got a bug over here, though. Okay. Which, I guess I kind of need to fix that. So what was I doing to dig into that? I guess this is back where we're assigning this curve, because this is saying my angle is wrong. That's abs. Thank you. Well, we could cheese this a little bit. It'd be easier to read as from angle, even though it's going to subtract it that way. That's the odd angle. Then we do this wraparound calculation. Oh, and we've got a mid angle. No, there we go. Okay, so no problems. All to spam. All right, so we are looking for a large disparity. Oh, we converted these to radians, so it's not going to read out the same. See, I wonder if that's just an option. Scale factor. Oop. Selected something there. Hey, midnight. Everybody likes wet hair. Angular dimensions, decimal degrees. I don't know what a gradient is. Thank you. $41. So now if we look at these. I don't know if I want to bother getting one of those. Oh. It didn't update. Oh, maybe this is only for labels on the drawing. Which, maybe we could use measurement tools for that. It's polar. Oh, do I have to select an angle between things? So I have to do between like that and... And there it is in degrees again. Huh, that's 90. I'm not sure how to but this is a point basically, so it's kind of hard to... I guess I'd have to add a line for the other one. Yeah, degrees again. What about... Maybe it's these? No, it's still degrees. What the heck is this for? Oh, maybe... Oh, maybe an individual drawing has its own? So that was already saved in the drawing? No, that's still there. That's 2? Okay, then there's another thing we need here. Okay, yeah, I can believe that. I don't actually need that. What I need is here to here, which means I basically need a guideline to get the angle out. Well, it's going to be a really big swing, right? Huh. I should printed those first. 6 to 3, 0.2 to 1 point, 5 point to 0.26. That could be it. Although it could also be our big thing. Oh no, that's going to be like to half. That's a half to like the slight negative. Or maybe it's slightly over. That could be it. 5 is definitely not 6, so that's 300 something if it's in degrees. We have a difference of that much. Oh. Because it's printing these out in a weird order, I don't know which one's associated with which. So we have odd angle, work angle, angles, angle, mid angle. Okay, so that is like the block starts with odd to odd. So we were looking at this in terms of angles. From 2, 2 minus from, but we absed it. That's showing up as a huge angle because of the way that subtraction worked. Greater than 180. Angle should not be 5. Because I wrote this when I was still in degree mode. Okay, those are all the smaller angles now. All right, so identified that. Those still seem to be drawing fine. So this is still in a setup where it can only return one thing at a time. So to do U, well, we need this. What have we got? We have arc points plus arc points. I need to work this out just by itself. All right. Arc points, same center. We're kind of redoing some work. End A to midpoint. And midpoint to end B. And we think the beginning of one is going to be the overlap of the other. Mind point. Okay. So that's one way to handle the multiple arcs, and that might be a thing I want to wrap up into a large angle splitter. At some point. I wonder if I'll ever need the raw angle form. So in principle, this also works for our boon setup. In principle, our plane arc is gone. If we take care of our other, yeah, it's just that one. So we've got icon points. These are all our points, points. We know that this is going to be 2 pieces. Now technically we need to divide this, we would need to divide this into more than just 2 pieces. So midpoint is, right, we calculated mid-angle. Work angle is an initial midpoint, then has to deal with possible wraparound. We would have to do, let's see, so that's divided by 2. Does this angle stuff start to become like, well, we've got this as points. Now I could start doing like geometry point, blah, 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 blah. Angle, blah, 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 blah. But then you're going to have things like you rotate points by an angle or intersecting different things. So I don't know if that kind of breakdown works. But if we're going to be doing angle math, we need to have like add angle, subtract angle, divide angle. Well, I guess if we needed to break it into n pieces, we would what? We just divide the angle, and then you'd be using the add angle with wraparound cleanup. Because I actually am guessing this is going to become larger than 180. It's technically a little sliver over right now. Because these points are basically at these points, and that's eventually going to be the larger run. So at some point we do have to deal with that, assuming that the design stays. This is also one of the things, one of several issues, a larger one probably being, oh, no, it works, the selection difficulty with these. This one's usually a pain in the butt. So I might need a different rendering method altogether, so I don't know if I want to get too far into this curve thing. Because, like, Canvas has an actual arc method. So all that stuff has been calculating points because points are what we have. We might eventually want to keep things in angles. There are parts of me that just wants to still pre-calculate the points or something. Oh, no, 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 no. Actually, for these things, I actually am calculating the points, and I would have to like back up into angles, and then convert them back into points on the render side. Now, I guess I could actually have multiple archetypes that are just kind of, well, whatever you've got, give it to me, and we'll let the render engine figure it out, or the rendering side figure it out. So we happen to have angles and centers and stuff coming in from the raw data, and we happen to have points for the duo arcs. And we happen to be able to convert them all into curves. So you could even then have a pass through your data that converted to curves. But I don't know if we're actually really keeping anything from frame to frame, so that's not going to help that much. Yeah, actually keeping curves around in general is only going to help if we're able to lazy calculate some bits. All right, so what do we have now? We have a thing that takes 3 points and gives you a curve. And this is doing, well, this would, guess there'd still be a little bit of scaling to do here. Even if we carried forward the angle would be fine. The center would have to be moved. Actually, center to scale, center to scale. If I scaled the radius, well, we're scaling this all afterwards. I think if I scaled the radius first, that would work out. If we scaled the center and the radius, then the angles would all just work out if we passed it down. So you have the points. We could straight up turn you into a curve. Or could we record this as like a duo arc with the 3 points. Oh, and this is specifically the curve form of this. The opposites are straight up lines, which that would move over into fields of that. Well, I guess this exercise was, can we pre-calculate curves? But other than only making one call for the split things instead of actually having two separate pieces, that's a very... It's not a clear benefit right now. Oh, we did prove that this works. Oh, we were trying to see maybe if it's possible to take a curve that needs to be split and pass it that way, instead of returning multiple objects. Now we add that into here. We're looking at this shape. Oh, and the practicality of doing this. So if we have an abstract definition of an arc, so turning it into a curve is very much playing to the limitations of the current rendering method. I'm resistant to the whole convert the points to angles and convert the angles back to point thing still. I guess maybe it's premature optimization, but that still seems like a lot of senseless work. So maybe I just have to have two archetypes for now, but instead of like split and arc, it's arc angle and arc points. And these don't need other names because they have their own names. And arc point would only come from, well, or it could be arc. Well, now we're back to name collisions. And like duo arc. Of course, now we've got like anonymous things. Would that be, well, it's, connector is has a shape. And this is connector shape. So we can't quite use that, but we make another record for that. So you would not have this pre-calculated. We would scale you and scale you on import. Three points is kind of manageable. I mean, like archetype got up to 4. But if you didn't have names for them, like which one's the midpoint would get maybe a little ambiguous. And if it's a duo arc, we kind of have that implicitly drawing to there. I guess that would be an order, but like we had this, well, because this used to be all about an icon. It is not the order we used to have. And I guess you could turn this into a list point. Then the conversion to curves turns out to be a kind of map over, I don't know if we have that function already. Combine two lists. I might be able to do like a map 2 of one of them drop 1 to get pairs. Yeah, there's no provided function to take a list and do all the pairs. So that would be a slightly annoying, well, I could probably case to a 3-element list and just assume that it's an ordered list of points on the arc. That does sort of extend to things that get broken up multiple times if need be. Or at least the data structure does. Now, I don't know if we actually want this in the same structure. Oh, and actually here's another kind of way to convert this over. As playing around with this curve thing, we just kind of add more types into here. Well, we have to define rendering for all of them. So we could do that one by one. That way I wouldn't break anything. So that could kind of solve that. I'm thinking for the duos, we might want to do a connector and a point itself. Oh, maybe, maybe leaving that information as sort of a transitional thing. Oh, problem. Boon has a shape. This is a kind of shape. Well, let's see. So this information takes over endpoint, and the icon point used for rendering that stuff, which starts to reduce down this structure. Maybe if you started to do that, you could split these. Maybe what I could do now is get it to return this structure in two different setups. Then you can change the type of the thing that's flowing through there and start removing the unnecessary fields. And that's kind of what I was trying to do by defining the new shape type. So the main point of contention here is the duo boons. Is layout duo boon our top level function? Layout duo boons is our top level function. So right now that's getting us duo boons, which we're already using in two different ways. Once to draw the trait, and once to draw the connector. So at that level, we're fine. We just have to get this to be two different things. See, is my layout basic boons? Basic boons. Yeah, you're probably returning a big junk collection of different things too. And a layout basic connectors. Oop. Yeah, you're not using you. We're doing layout and just dumping that straight into display boon connector. So I never did that as an intermediate for whatever reason. Right, because right now it doesn't use any trait data, so it can just use the layout. Okay. So we would like you, I guess as the intermediate stage is two lists of boons. So right now we're just doing list map. Oh. Oh, because we've got a 0 somewhere. Okay, so that's wasteful, but it should work. All right, so this is a single boon. So for laying out a single boon at a time, that would have to break you into bits. And is that what unzip does, or is that the other way? A list of B into list A, list B. That is exactly unzip. Which, just to... The quick and dirty version of this is ugly. We could specialize these things a little bit for unused information. But that'll work. Actually, I might be able to actually turn this into connector and tweak some of the downstream stuff. Would that check out? I mean, obviously this function itself wouldn't check out. It is connector here, right? Yeah. And then you were getting passed into display boon connector. Oh. We're using the same function for that, though. Well, if these could get converted over to connector, that would already be a win. Yep, those are exactly the fields we're taking. So that means layout basic connectors would be a list of connector. And we can dump all this garbage. Okay. Right, we haven't actually fixed this. We expected that at the time. I was like, let's see what the other errors are. Of course, now it would actually be useful to keep this as an original object, but we think there's more changes coming. Okay. So we've actually kind of already hit that point of differentiation. This was just that stuff. We've got this connector type that we want to be working on. And I think boon doesn't need this stuff. Well, it's basically using icon point. And we might be... Right, because right now we're calculating all this stuff here. So icon point is like the one thing we're getting out of this. So in theory, this is all garbage. Doesn't affect rendering of anything from the looks of it. Which means we can go ahead and just drop those from the structure. I think. Layout basic boons. Oh, so you were actually using that a little bit. But this is once again, this is garbage. These are the things we're trying to get rid of. All right, so we have split our types. A icon only needs a point. It doesn't need to be icon point per se anymore. This is not an icon point, but we were trying to replace this entire thing with the shape type, which has exactly the fields that you need for a, like, this is going to be irrelevant for a line. It's currently only relevant for split arcs as a shape. And I guess if it's a connector, end A, end B is still sort of relevant, but we're trying to maybe move towards an angle arc representation. So if we can move everything to the shape field, we can just go through and kind of wipe out the rest. And we said we could do that by gradually introducing new types and then flipping things over. So we don't need to worry about this case. And actually, we shouldn't need to worry about, well, oh, we have our other type of point. Let's just remove that and see if it goes away. Well, there's going to be a thing that renders it. Which was a no-op because it wasn't supposed to exist. Oh, we used that as a punt. Well, right now line works. And these are things that should never exist, and we proved that you could actually separate these types. But I just have that fear that we're gonna at some point have to handle like some of the requirements processing or management of these, or if we get into dynamic layouts, we're gonna kind of need to just handle general traits regardless of if they're duo or single. So, if we add that to layout line, all right, so we blew out end A, end B. These don't have aliases, so they're fine. You ended up being very uncomplicated. Oh, now we've duplicated other line. Now we're not generating other lines anywhere. Okay, I have to be getting you at least from opposite. Display opposite. Wait, you're a straight up segment. No, this thing's dead. You have to be a line, right? I guess I had something else in my search. Okay, calculate opposite. Oh, you're another line. We have to come back and replace it later, but oh well. Okay, those are fine. It's a layout dot line. Okay, we're doing a little bit of work here. Okay, we still have straight lines here. Calculate adjacent. Oh! Yeah, you weren't a point before. But there's actually kind of no connector here? At least not right now. It might eventually be between some points. Oh, did I end up deciding not to display these? So I calculate adjacent, I give it a line. And it's just a line. Where did I decide not to draw this? Oh, because I just put icon point, icon point, icon point. I calculated them, I decided not to draw them. Maybe we do have to have a punt. An invisible connector? Which was basically point was actually technically a invisible thing. And that was just an empty group. All right. Line, line, line. Yep, no, you're right there. That line. Okay, now you swap right in. All right, so I guess this is the bigger change. So if that type exists, we have to have a renderer for it. Oh, was my archetype? Oh no, this is center radius. That might not have any name collisions. Well, duo archetype I might want to rename some things to avoid collisions. Oh, I might want to punt this to a function. Because this stuff got a little hairy. Now I happen to have a structure for this. Well, that's going to be that part. This is... So that can do... And then that could actually take it through here. And in fact, this is where we'd eventually have to do variable splitting and things. Okay, so there's arc points, there's arc. He would basically do a path, I guess. I guess this is never. This is our arc function, so I need a better name for this. And then you maybe would do center radius from angle to angle. And this would take over a bunch of stuff from layout.arc. But you were doing all this messy stuff inline, whereas my other thing I was like, do I really want to do that inline? This eventually needs to be a variable number split. All right, so midpoint. Oh, these should have been pre-scaled by the layout import. So the angles should be fine. Or they shouldn't need to be scaled. Now this is going to be, let's see, this is what? This should be able to directly do arcs. Let's see, is this making a path? Or is this making a collage? Hey Stormy, how's it going? I saw something pop up when you came on. I didn't notice what it was though. Okay, so if I do this cubic curve trick, then I could return this as a single path. So points, 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 points. Oh, we had some more scaling to do. We were doing down here. And I guess I could make these a little bit more regular by doing this. Okay, so that makes you a path. Another arc info, path we can trace. Why is that? Because you lost your arrow. That's why that's confusing. And once again, I duplicated. Body is a record on other arcs. Oh, did I not? Oh, I did leave that. Now, nothing generates these. This is essentially only going to be for layout.arc because it's got angles. So you might not need midpoint. You don't need to calculate the ends. You don't need midpoint, you don't need mid-angle. But you don't need to do anything with angles. I just need to return a shape, though. Oh, and a shape... But we're trying to ignore these fields. They should technically be scaled, but this rendering method won't care. And we're not going to have any angles, so you're just going to be a arc with a... Oh, this is the scaling, though. And a radius, and I have to figure out what scale does. So scale did a... Oh. Now this is all point stuff. So that's going to get somewhere. I think I eventually want to do that around stuff in the file itself. I see, it might not like that. Oh, you're not an arc. You're a other arc. Okay, those are no longer red, but they're still rendering just fine. So our other one would be in calculate. Duo would go down to either of these are doing calculate arc with different parameters. No, we're just not even using this. So actually, that's all of other arc, which should mean the end of that version of arc. All right. Which I think we want to turn that into just arc. We've already got an arc here. Okay, and then yeah, we still use plain lowercase. Oh, I've got it set up so it doesn't care about sensitivity unless you use some mixed case. But there's no mixed case to use here. Okay, all that's still there. Then we would add rendering for you, which is kind of arc from points. Now that went center and oh. Okay, now that's a center. Oh. Right. This still had the center point, which means this still has to have the center point. We haven't used it yet, so that's not going to be a big issue. Now we're running into the problem that we don't have a definition for this. I mean, it's still arc info. So before we hit, oh, here's the name collisions. So as long as this stuff is in context up here, we can't easily bust it out. Now, I think I took that symbol out of relevance. Okay, so that's compilable. That's the rendering. Okay, so we generate it here. We have all of our points. This is just going to turn into a big old thing. Actually, we kept the end from elsewhere. And if all that worked, then we shouldn't actually be using like any of the stuff, the other fields in Boon Connector. We're certainly not using it in here. I guess we're kind of done with that. I think I might be using it in curve still, which curve itself was an experiment, but have we completely stopped that? We've completely stopped that. So that's not using that stuff. Calculate arc. We're using that, which we end up using. So we're eventually going to have to use that elsewhere. So we're using the stuff from connector to get our... Oh, maybe this eventually needs to return the information in a more hospitable format. Layout basic connectors. So actually it wouldn't really matter what we put here. Layout basic boons. This is the boon, so that matters. Here, that's generating a connector, it's putting it into a connector. But if nothing's using that, that's a boon icon point, right? Yeah, that takes a boon. That's building a adjacent connector, which actually the points don't matter at all here. Oh no, because except that this is the thing that we use to get the boon position. Opposite, yeah, we're using that to calculate the icon position eventually. But the end A, end B. So end A and end B might be the easier things to wash out of this. Calculate adjacent. Yeah, you're invisible, so you could... no, we're using icon point, so we still kind of need this for the moment, but we don't have to return it. Calculate opposite. You're also using that to determine your intermediate point, and it turns in a line. Calculate arc. We're actually passing on the endpoints farther down, but we don't need them here. This is calculating the ends from the angles. Ah, yep. This garbage. Okay, duos are in place. Those are in place. But did I fully remove, what was it, split arc? Yeah. All right, so connector right now is a point in a shape where the shape is the only thing we're really using for connector purposes. All right, let's, if we rename you, well, that is kind of the icon point we're getting out of there. I guess maybe boon, it would just be where it is. All right, so that's a line, that's an arc. That's a boon that was using it. That is a connector, so it's still the thing. That's a connector, so it's still that thing. It's a connector. Oh, it's kind of end up being, well, for its purpose, it's still the icon point. Now we can say, we kind of just reviewed those. Oh, what's left for icon point? So we're defining it. This is basic connectors, which do not care about that. They're not defining icons. Duo boons, we need to pass it through somewhere. But it doesn't need to go into the connector. It just needs to go into here. Oh, so some of this stuff that's doing connect, well, it could do a shape, except. We need to pass through that point somewhere. This could kind of turn into a tuple, maybe? So you don't care. So you could be a list of shape. Now, where does that go into drawing? Layout basic connector. You go straight into display boon connector, which is the same that we use for both. Duo connectors. It comes out of layout duo boons, which is a list connector. So you take that stuff and unzip it. So since we don't care, we only want the connector out of this. You're a connector shape, though. And if you're a connector shape, which maybe this can eventually become just a connector now. Oh, you were a structure that had a shape. Can we do that? Oh no, actually, calculate duo? You were a connector. Did I pull out a... I was calling... Maybe I was inappropriately calling that shape. Because that could have just been a pass-through by now? Huh. And then display boon connector, which may be a little bit inappropriate now, or inaccurate, which already was filtered down to shape. Layout basic connectors. All right, so don't care about you. Don't care about you. Everything still seems to be in place. Okay, you're still in calculate duo. Right, up to a point, we are still using that. But this could be a tuple now. Only we don't have a convenient type name for that. Oh, we still have to return for the type. And that comes down to what these things return. Skip one depends on calculate arc, calculate opposite, but that still changes this type, which does show up an unfortunate number of times. Connector was kind of handy there. That might remove the need for that. Okay. Now we could kind of flip that around. Oh. Okay, we nuked something in our manual version. Ooh. I guess it's possible we'll end up with more data, like we might have to show highlights of the duo boons. We'll eventually want to show them in some sort of highlighted state, and then yeah. So then actually, this would still be a description of the shape. Connect door. I'm not sure how that's going to work in, but that would actually end up being the argument. Well, okay, so this doesn't need to exist now. Connect door might need to come back, but we have to figure out where it comes back. Now I did end up figuring out like the icon highlighting from outside information. And figuring out network highlighting is one of the things we've been wanting to work on. But we're kind of cramming everything into our old duo boon model. So that rewrites all of our graphical stuff. What separates the boon icons from the connectors? I guess there's the major element of that. Yeah, all in the chart. Oh, you know what? We could filter out the invisible ones. I guess there's only going to be the 8 adjacent ones right now. Separate, what is it? Drawing structures for boons and connectors. Oh, but associating things with highlight information is that going to work in with associating God data with traits? Because you kind of need some of that information. Well, that's probably going to be a major task in and of itself. And reducing down all this drawing data structure stuff was certainly kind of a big thing. So that's probably just a good breaking point. Not sure when I'll be working on this again. The major scheduled times for coding are Monday and Saturday morning. If I continue feeling like it, I might want to tackle that in more evenings. Or I might want to be doing some more below zero if I'm feeling a little bit more foggy. Let's see if, well, I don't have a lot of people that I know coding at night. Let's see. But thanks for watching. Thanks to Stormy Ice Leopard for a rating and support from all of the subscribers. Oh. I see Kanji Coder is on quite a lot. He works on all kinds of things from CAD to good night to he's one of those people who has his kind of, I think he's kind of been coding in his own bubble for a while, so he kind of innovates and does his own thing that's not the same thing everybody else does. Right now it says, well, one thing said in editor command prompt. The other one's now it says don't feel like working spot checking. So I'm not sure what that means. But if you're looking for a place cool to hang out, Kanji Coder's usually doing some interesting stuff. And that's someplace cool to hang out. Thanks for hanging out with me. Good night, and until next time.